Mogwai. I don't know, some Chinese word. I just call him Gizmo.
They were small, furry, and sold as the perfect Christmas gift. But once the lights went out, the rules didn't matter. No food after midnight, no bright light, no water. Break them. And the nightmare began. Gremlins wasn't supposed to be cute. In its earliest form, it was a blood-soaked monster movie where even the heroes didn't make it to the credits. Studio executives panicked. Parents' groups warned it would traumatize children, and Spielberg himself stepped in to save it from itself.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 million.
But what really happened behind the scenes was stranger than fiction. Props went missing. Puppets malfunctioned mid-shoot. Actors were pushed to breaking points under the weight of an unpredictable production. Rumors of a lost, more violent cut still swirl today, hidden somewhere in studio vaults. What rules did the filmmakers secretly break? How much horror was scrubbed from the screen? And what truths about Gremlins have been buried for 40 years? Let's uncover 20 shocking facts they don't want you to know about Gremlins. Shocking Fact 1. The original script was a horror movie. Before it was a dark comedy, Gremlins was a full-on horror film. Screenwriter Chris Columbus envisioned something savage. No jokes, no charm, just blood in the snow. In that version, the Gremlins didn't pull pranks. They slaughtered. Billy's mother was beheaded. The dog, Barney, was eaten alive. Even Gizmo? He didn't survive the second act. Spielberg was shocked when he first read it, but he saw potential. He asked Columbus to tone it down, to find the heart inside the horror. The result became a genre-bending hybrid. But those original pages, they read like Alien meets It's a Wonderful Life, a Christmas nightmare that only barely became a classic. Somewhere in those lost pages lies the Gremlins we were never meant to see. Shocking Fact 2. Spielberg nearly walked away. Steven Spielberg loved the concept of Gremlins, mischievous chaos in suburbia. But once production started, he realized the film was slipping out of control. Director Joe Dante was pushing the tone darker. The effects team was behind schedule, and the creature designs were getting weirder by the week. Spielberg, who was also producing Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom at the time, considered stepping away. Rumors swirled that he wanted to replace Dante. Studio heads begged him to stay involved, fearing the film would collapse without his name attached. Ultimately, Spielberg stayed, but with tighter control. He softened the tone, pushed for more humor, and saved the film's most beloved character from the chopping block. Without him, Gremlins would have been a monster movie with no soul, and no survivors. Spielberg didn't just save Gremlins, he rewrote its fate before it could devour itself. Shocking Fact 3. Gizmo was supposed to die. In the original draft, Gizmo wasn't the hero. He wasn't the face of the franchise. He was a cute setup, and then a casualty. Chris Columbus originally planned for Gizmo to become Stripe, the menacing, mohawked gremlin who terrorizes the town. There was no good Mogwai, no redemption arc, just transformation, destruction, and death. Spielberg put a stop to it. He insisted Gizmo remain pure, a figure of innocence amid the madness. He knew audiences would fall in love with him, and he was right. Gizmo became the film's mascot, merchandising gold, a pop culture icon. But in another timeline, he was just another monster, and his final scene wasn't a goodbye. It was a scream. Gizmo's survival wasn't fate. It was a last-minute mercy that changed movie history. Shocking Fact 4. Billy was almost a psychopath. In early drafts, Billy wasn't the awkward, kind-hearted lead we remember. He was darker, brooding, almost unhinged. After his father's failure as an inventor, Billy was written as emotionally unstable, someone who enjoyed watching the Gremlins destroy his town. In one cutscene, he even laughs while a neighbor's house explodes. Zach Galligan brought something different to the role, a sweetness, an earnestness. Spielberg loved it. So the character was rewritten to match Galligan's demeanor, but some of the early scenes stayed in. Moments where Billy does nothing as others suffer. Those strange silences? They're echoes of the original version. The Billy we got was a reluctant hero. The one we almost got might have joined the Gremlins. Billy didn't just fight the Gremlins. He narrowly avoided becoming one of them. Shocking fact 5. The Gremlins originally ate the dog. In perhaps the darkest scene from the original script, the Gremlins attack Barney, Billy's loyal pet. Not just a scare, a full-on mauling. The scene was graphic, lingering on the dog's screams. It ended with Billy finding a blood-stained collar under the Christmas tree. Everyone, from Spielberg to the effects team, objected. "You can kill the neighbors," one producer said, "but not the dog." The scene was cut. Barney survives in the final film, traumatized but intact. But the script never forgot. The Gremlins' war on innocence was real, and their first target was man's best friend.
Hey, you get a picture taken. Smile.
Ready?
Barney's survival was mercy on screen, but only because the cameras stopped rolling. Fact 6. The studio hated Phoebe Cates' monologue. It's one of the most infamous scenes in Gremlins. Kate's haunting monologue about her father dying in a chimney dressed as Santa. Dark, morbid, completely jarring. And the studio hated it. Executives begged Joe Dante to cut the scene. They called it tonal whiplash and claimed it would alienate audiences. But Dante fought hard to keep it in, arguing it captured the film's core theme. That horror hides under holiday cheer. Spielberg was split. He disliked the scene personally, but respected Dante's vision and allowed it to stay. Audiences were stunned. Some laughed, others were horrified. Critics called it uncomfortable brilliance. To this day, it remains one of the most bizarre emotional pivots in movie history. A speech about Santa that stopped a generation cold. Kate's story didn't just freeze the audience, it cracked the film wide open to its darkest truth. Shocking fact 7. There was almost a Gremlins versus Santa scene. Joe Dante originally planned a wild sequence that would have pushed the film's Christmas horror to the extreme. Gremlins attacking a mall Santa in front of terrified children. Yes, a full-on assault. Gremlins tearing through a shopping center, elves fleeing, kids screaming as jingle bells turned into screams. It was all storyboarded, but the studio said no. Hard number. The scene was deemed too traumatizing for families and was scrapped before production. Dante later joked that it was his favorite scene that never got made, the ultimate blend of comedy and terror, and somewhere in a dusty archive. That footage might still exist. The mall Santa never made it to screen, but his ghost still haunts the film's lost reels. Shocking fact 8. Why the set was constantly on fire. The Gremlins were mechanical nightmares, dozens of animatronic creatures, all wired, synced, and puppeteered by a massive crew. But there was one problem. They kept overheating. The film's complex lighting rigs and constant retakes meant the latex-covered machines often short-circuited. Fires broke out regularly. Puppets melted mid-scene. One even caught fire inside a microwave during a test shoot. Insurance nearly pulled out. One producer called the set a fire hazard disguised as a Christmas movie. The crew became so used to extinguisher drills that they added extra brakes just to cool down the set. The mayhem you see on screen? It wasn't just performance. The set itself was barely holding together. The Gremlins weren't the only things overheating. So was the production holding them together by a thread. Shocking fact. 9. Zach Galligan was cast by accident. Zach Galligan wasn't a big name. In fact, he barely had a resume when he walked into the Gremlins audition. But fate intervened. During his read, Galligan broke character and laughed at one of Phoebe Cates's lines. The room fell silent. Until Spielberg, sitting quietly in the back, started laughing too. That spontaneous moment of levity convinced Spielberg that Galligan had something unique. Likability. Relatability. A quiet charm. The studio wanted a known star. Spielberg overruled them. "He is Billy," he reportedly said. Galligan got the role, and a forgotten kid from Manhattan became the face of one of the decade's wildest blockbusters, all because he laughed at the wrong moment.
Did you get them wet or something?
One misplaced laugh turned an unknown actor into the beating heart of Gremlins. Shocking fact 10. The microwave scene was nearly banned. One of the film's most outrageous moments, a gremlin exploding inside a microwave, almost got the entire movie banned in several countries. Censors in the UK, Australia, and parts of Europe objected to the scene not because of violence, but because they feared it would inspire kids to mimic it. Parents' groups protested. Microwave manufacturers threatened legal action. Even the MPAA debated whether to slap the film with an R rating over that single moment. Spielberg fought back. He argued the scene was cartoonish, exaggerated, and clearly fantasy. The rating board agreed, barely. The scene stayed in. But for years, TV versions of Gremlins cut it out entirely. To this day, it remains one of the most controversial kills in movie history, and it still makes audiences flinch. One kitchen gag nearly nuked Gremlins out of theaters for good. Shocking fact 11. Stripe was originally Gizmo. In the original script, there was no Stripe. There was Gizmo, and he was supposed to turn into the film's main villain. That's right, the lovable Mogwai wasn't going to survive the first act. After getting wet, Gizmo would mutate into the sadistic Stripe and lead the Gremlins' rampage. But Spielberg refused. He believed the audience needed an anchor, a pure, innocent character to cling to amid the chaos. So Gizmo stayed innocent, and a new creature, Stripe, was born to embody the evil. The duality worked. The contrast between them added tension, and suddenly the film had a real hero and a real monster. Gizmo became a plush toy phenomenon. Stripe became nightmare fuel. But they were once the same creature, until Spielberg split them in two.
Hey, look at that one's got a cute little stripe on its head.
One choice split a monster in half and gave Gremlins both its villain and its soul. Shocking fact. 12. The puppets went rogue on set. The Gremlin puppets were mechanical marvels and disasters. Operated by cables, hydraulics, and early animatronics, they required entire teams just to make them blink or move. But the tech was unpredictable. One Gremlin's jaw snapped shut and broke an operator's finger. Another malfunctioned during a bar scene and hurled itself off the counter. In one infamous moment, a puppet sparked mid-take, caught fire, and melted on camera, only to be written into the movie as a death gag. Joe Dante later admitted they spent more time fixing puppets than filming scenes. At one point, They considered switching to stop motion for the entire finale, but the chaos stayed and made the creatures feel alive in ways CGI never could. Every breakdown, burn, and blunder only made the Gremlins feel more terrifyingly real. Shocking fact. 13. Joe Dante had to fight for the violence. Joe Dante envisioned Gremlins as a dark fairy tale, anarchic, violent, a horror movie with a Looney Tunes heart. But every step of the way, the studio pushed back. Executives wanted a softer tone. Spielberg leaned more sentimental. Parents' groups were already on high alert. But Dante stood firm. He fought to keep the kitchen massacre, the exploding microwave, and the chainsaw duel. The violence is the point, he argued. It's what makes the cuteness dangerous. He eventually struck a compromise. Pull back on gore, but keep the chaos. Make the deaths theatrical, exaggerated, cartoonish, surreal. The result? A film that walks a razor-thin line between adorable and terrifying. And it only works because Dante refused to flinch.
They're inside. All of them?
Gremlins kept its bite because Dante never let the darkness be declawed. Shocking fact. 14. The MPAA created PG-13. Because of this movie, Gremlins didn't just shock audiences, it broke the rating system. Released as a PG movie, parents were horrified by the film's violence, creature gore, and disturbing tone. Phone lines at the MPAA lit up. So did Spielberg's office. Just weeks earlier, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom had caused similar backlash. But it was Gremlins that pushed the tipping point. The MPAA was forced to act. In July 1984, just 1 month after Gremlins hit theaters, they created an entirely new category, PG-13. It was meant for films too intense for kids, but not quite R-rated. Gremlins wasn't just a movie. It was the reason Hollywood redefined what family-friendly even meant. Gremlins didn't just make mischief, it rewrote the rules of Hollywood itself. Shocking fact 15. The studio cut a full Gremlin backstory. There was once a whole mythology behind the Mogwai, and it was dark. Early versions of the script included a scene where the shopkeeper tells Billy the ancient origin of the creatures. They were born from darkness, cursed beings bred for chaos. There were scrolls, legends, and a reference to a shadow world where Mogwai originated. But the studio cut it. Too weird. Too fantasy. Too slow. The Gremlins' mystery became part of their menace. Creatures without logic, without rules beyond 3 simple ones. But behind the curtain was a deeper story. One that turned the Mogwai into something far older and far more terrifying than anyone realized.
Would you say this was called?
The Mogwai's true origin was erased, leaving only whispers of a darkness older than Christmas itself. Shocking fact 16. That iconic theme song? Total last-minute addition. The mischievous, off-kilter theme that defines Gremlins, all circus vibes and creeping menace, wasn't planned from the start. In fact, the film had nearly wrapped before composer Jerry Goldsmith wrote it. Originally, the score was going to lean dark, orchestral, horror-heavy. But after seeing a rough cut, Goldsmith realized the tone needed something stranger. In just a few days, he composed the now iconic Gremlins theme, a blend of synths, childlike melodies, and sinister undertones. It was catchy, eerie, and completely unexpected. The studio was skeptical. Too weird, they said. But Spielberg loved it. Today, that theme is instantly recognizable, a musical fingerprint of mischief, and it was almost never written.
Gremlins, huh? Little monsters.
Right.
Hundreds of them.
Well, I'm not sure. Maybe thousands.
One last-minute melody turned Gremlins from horror into a twisted holiday lullaby. Shocking fact. 17. Gremlins were almost stop-motion monsters. Before the animatronics, before the puppets, the original Gremlins were designed as stop-motion nightmares. The idea was to animate every creature frame by frame, Ray Harryhausen style. Early tests were unsettling. Insect-like movements, blank eyes, twitchy limbs, but it was too slow, too expensive, and too hard to match with live-action scenes. Joe Dante wanted the creatures to interact with the human world, not float around it like ghosts. So stop motion was scrapped. Still, a few shots made it into the final film. Most notably, the silhouette of Stripe jumping across the department store shelves. If you look closely, you'll catch it. A remnant of the other Gremlins movie, the one that never fully hatched. A few flickering frames are all that remain of the Gremlins that might have haunted our dreams in stop motion. Shocking fact. 18. Chris Columbus regrets the original ending. Screenwriter Chris Columbus has admitted that he hates the ending of Gremlins. Billy saves the day. Gizmo survives. The town is bruised but intact, and the shopkeeper comes back to reclaim his creature. Columbus originally wanted a bleaker conclusion, one where Gizmo dies sacrificing himself to stop Stripe, where the town doesn't recover, where Billy is forever changed. But Spielberg vetoed it. He believed audiences needed a win. Years later, Columbus said he regrets giving the film such a neat bow. The ending never matched the darkness we earned, he explained. What was supposed to be a cautionary tale became a holiday horror story with a happy face. Gremlins ended with a smile, but it was always meant to leave teeth marks. Shocking fact. 19. There's a secret connection to Indiana Jones. It's subtle. Blink and you'll miss it. But Gremlins and Indiana Jones share more than Spielberg's fingerprints. In the background of the Chinatown shop where Gizmo is purchased, there are trinkets, one of which is a replica of the fertility idol from Raiders of the Lost Ark. But the connection runs deeper. The set itself reused props from Temple of Doom, which was filming at the same time. Some crew even worked on both productions. It's an unofficial cinematic universe, whispered between scenes. Spielbergian myth colliding with holiday chaos, the worlds of adventure and anarchy quietly overlapping. In one cluttered shop, Gremlins and Indiana Jones briefly share the same shadow. Shocking fact. 20. The abandoned sequel that got too dark before Gremlins. 2. The new batch went full meta. Warner Brothers flirted with a very different sequel. In early drafts, the Gremlins escape Kingston Falls and invade New York for real. It wasn't a comedy. It was apocalyptic. Think The Purge, but with puppets. Gizmo dies. Billy is institutionalized. The Gremlins evolve. Some even learn to speak. It was bleak, brutal, and ambitious. Too ambitious. The studio got cold feet. Joe Dante hated the idea. He returned only on the condition that he could do the sequel his way. Satirical, absurd, and over the top. But that first sequel? It still exists, buried in Warner Brothers archives. A script that would have turned Gremlins into a horror saga instead of a satire. And it's darker than anything we ever saw.
With Mogwai comes much responsibility. But you didn't listen.
Somewhere in the vaults lies the sequel that would have turned Gremlins into the end of the world. Gremlins wasn't supposed to be lovable. It was meant to terrify. A holiday tale dripping with shadows, teeth, and blood on the snow. But somewhere between the carnage and the chaos, it found a strange magic. and rewrote the rules of what a Christmas movie could be. And maybe that's why it endures, because beneath the jokes and jingles is a darker truth. Every story has two versions, the one we're told and the one they keep locked away. If this pulled back the curtain on a film you thought you knew, drop your favorite gremlin or moment in the comments. And hit like and subscribe for more untold truths behind the legends. After all, the rules are there for a reason. Break them, and you never know what might come out of the dark.